All right, welcome everybody to Scaling Your Business and Free Up Your Time. Thank you for joining us. Look forward to walking you through the 5 steps necessary to scale your business and free up your time. Before we get into the meat of the presentation, I want to make sure that I don't waste your time. So I want to just very quickly walk you through who this is for and who is going to get the most out of this kind of presentation. So, first and foremost, if you own your own business, that's a good first start. So, the first thing is that you own a business that cannot run without you. In other words, if you have a business to where the entire business, from sales and operations to fighting fires, revolves around you, you're absolutely in the right place. The second is if you feel like you have a job instead of a business, then you are absolutely in the right place. Because at the end of the day, this webinar is for business owners that dream of being able to take a vacation without fielding calls from your office or freaking out wondering what's happening back at the office now that I'm away. Do you dream of your business functioning as a cash flow machine without you being there? It actually can happen. And if you dream of your employees being a highly effective team, you're absolutely in the right place. If you dream of increased sales without more work, I tell you, I come across so many business owners that say, gosh, I would really love to increase my sales. The problem is, if I increase sales, that means more work for me and more fires I have to fight. And at the end of the day, that's not what true business ownership is. There truly is an answer. So if you feel afraid or shudder at the thought of picking up a new client or new customer because of the new work it's going to mean for you, hopefully you'll have the peace of mind that actually you can generate more sales without having to mean more work for you. And if you dream of streamlining your sales and operations so that your business runs without you, boy, are you going to have fun over the next few minutes. So, here is my big promise to you. I'm going to walk you through a strategy that is going to transform your business from a business that requires you to a business that allows, that not only functions, but also grows without you having to be involved in every aspect of the business. So when you walk out of this today, or when you stop listening to this, the one thing that you absolutely be clear on is how to transform your business from a business that requires you and revolves around you, kind of like Groundhog Day, into a business that you can scale and that turns out to be a cash flow machine for you without you having to be necessarily be involved in the day-to-day operations. So here's my gift. If you stay on this webinar through the end, I'm going to give you the delegation template. The delegation template is a very simple, straightforward, yet highly valuable tool that my clients currently use, my private clients use, to determine what to delegate of the different tasks that they do, what order to delegate in, and then more importantly, who to delegate it to. So if you can just stick with me until the end, I will give you that free gift just for taking your valuable time and listening to this webinar. So, having said that, does this sound like you? In other words, as I go through these, ask yourself, does this resonate with you? Number one, do you feel like your business has invaded every single aspect of your life? In other words, does it feel like your business has taken its tentacles, kind of like a big octopus, and literally put its tentacles all over your life? In other words, it controls your day, it controls your mornings, it controls your nights. You think about it constantly, it controls your weekends, it controls your schedule. If that's you, there actually is an answer. There is hope and there is a plan to get you from where you are now to where you would ultimately like to be. Number two, are you hesitant to leave the day-to-day operations to your team? You know, I've talked to prospects and I've talked to clients when I first started working with them that are just sick and tired of the incompetence and the lack of ownership that their employees take on getting stuff done. Number three, are you drained, just drained? Feel like you have the weight of the world on you if you are required to generate all the sales to float this beast that you call a business? Do you ever wonder what it would be like if you actually had the right team? In other words, do you feel like you would have more control over your time, be able to scale, be able to go out there and do the things that you love to do versus have to do if you simply just had the right team in place? And are you frustrated by how difficult it is to get things done in your business? In other words, does it feel like you have to move heaven and earth just to get anything done? Do you feel like nothing happens in your business unless you do it or approve it? That is not the abundant life, y'all. And there actually is an answer on how to overcome that challenge. And also, and this just pains me, do you miss out on weekends, family time, and fun activities just because your work is never done? In other words, do you kind of feel like your business is like a house where it's never done? There's always stuff you can do. There's always things you can do to it. Well, rest assured, by the time that we're done through this presentation, you'll have a step-by-step plan on how to be able to scale your business and free up your time. So, do you believe that long hours and endless frustration is your lot in life as a business owner? Well, the good news for you is it doesn't have to be. Because here is the real problem. Here's the real underlying issues. You have not made the 5 shifts yet. And that is a key point, yet. Because at the end of this webinar, you're going to have a path. You're going to have a plan on how to get from where you are now to where you want to be. But if you don't make these 5 shifts, you're never going to get your time back and you're never going to scale your business. These 5 shifts are fundamental to getting you from where you are now to where you would actually like to be. So, once you scale your business, here are the benefits of it. Number 1 is you'll be able to work on the things that you love to do in your business versus the things that you have to do. I spoke to a prospect this morning that says, gosh, what I really would love to do is work on the high-level strategy for my business, set a path forward, meet with clients and prospects just to find out what they got going on, and then turn it over to my operations team to take care of the day-to-day operations. That actually is a reality that can happen to you. Number 2, once you scale your business, once you get to the point where the business doesn't require you, you'll turn your business into a predictable cash flow machine that is not dependent on any one person for its success or for its failure. In other words, you're going to have a system inside of your business that generates leads, that converts leads to sales, that delivers the service or product that you deliver to your customer, to your client, and then also has a system to retain them via your customer service system. So that is truly what makes up a business. A business is simply a system of systems. And if the system in your business is call you, in other words, when there's a problem or an issue or a client complaint, if the system is just call you, you're never going to scale your business. So I'm going to walk you through a way that you can stay in control of your business without controlling your business. Those are 2 completely different things. You always want to maintain control of your business, but you've got to do it in such a manner where it doesn't require your presence to be there to make sure it's being done correctly. Controlling is basically being involved in every single aspect of the business. That mindset will never get you to where you want to be. And the last thing is you'll be able to create an asset that you can actually sell one day. You know, it pains me when somebody doesn't take us up on the opportunity to help them scale their business, or if they don't get the right help. I see them and they call me. It's almost like in desperation. They say, you know what? I'm sick of this business. I just want to sell this thing. If your business revolves around you, most businesses like that, you actually can sell it, but you sell it in the form of what's called an earnout. An earnout, when I hear those 2 words, is like death to me. In other words, it's awful. An earnout is where you get a little bit of cash from whoever's acquiring you, and then they assign you a boss. So you spend all this time, all this energy, excuse me, creating a business, wanting independence, wanting freedom, and now you sell it because you're just sick of the darn thing. And then you find yourself working for somebody else and you have to earn out the rest of the deal. Every single business owner that I've spoken to that hasn't gotten help on scaling their business and just basically, just gives up almost and just says, you know what, enough of this. I've suffered too much. My family suffered too much. I'm just going to sell this thing and done an earnout. Find themselves more miserable than when they were owning the business without the earnout. So you actually can sell your business, whether it's a professional services business where you're selling a service or if you're selling a product, you actually can create an asset that you can sell for a ton of money, 8 to 10 times EBITDA, if you have the proper systems in place. Because here's the thing, a buyer wants to take your system, they want to apply capital to it to explode it to the next level. They can't do that if the entire business revolves around you. That's why they have to do an earnout, because they, the acquirer, have to implement the systems necessary to get it to that level. That's why it's an earn out. Okay? But here's the great thing. Once you scale your business, you're going to have control over your schedule. In other words, do you ever feel like you're being controlled by your business or by your clients, or you feel like you're constantly on call by your clients? Well, after this webinar, I'm going to walk you through and give you clarity on how to get control over that schedule. And here's the other thing. This is a big one. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, your freedom is the effectiveness of your team. So after this webinar, you are going to have confidence that you at least have some principles that you can take away from it and implement it today in order to have more confidence with your team to ensure that they're doing the right things at the right time and in the right order. So, like I said earlier, there are 5 simple shifts you need to make to scale your business. And I'm going to walk you through exactly how to make those shifts today in this webinar. Before we get into it, before we get into the 5 shifts needed, I just kind of want to walk you through who the heck I am. First and foremost, I've worked with over 104 privately held businesses to scale their business, and I've added around $54 million in sales to those 104 clients. That also include that the one thing that I didn't say there is I didn't include how many of them have gotten their lifestyles back, how many of them have scaled their business. But for now, just know that I've worked with over 104 clients to scale their business and at a total of 54 million in sales. Number 2, I've actually allowed multiple business owners to open up multiple offices around the country. You're probably thinking, my gosh, I'm trying to have a hard time managing the business that I'm at. I can't imagine opening up new offices. Here's the thing. When I first started working with those clients, they thought it was impossible as well. They thought that their lot in life was working themselves to death and having an ineffective team for the rest of their life. And they're no longer experiencing that misery. And most importantly, we specialize in working with business owners just like you to scale your business. So, having said all that, let's get into the first shift of the 5 shifts that need to happen for you to scale your business. The first is we must set the right expectations. So what do I mean by that? Here's what I mean. If you set vague and broad expectations and measurements for your team, I guarantee you your team is not going to live up to them. If you set vague expectations, then what you're basically telling your team members is that, hey, just go do your job, and whatever that means to you, that is what you need to deliver. So when you set expectations, both of your team or your employees, and by the way, when I say the word team, that doesn't matter whether you have W-2 employees or 1099s. I've got 1099 employees, I've got W-2, and I treat them exactly the same. But if I don't set expectations of what results I want from them in an objective, specific, and measurable manner, your employees are going to be left, and my employees are going to be left to their own devices. In other words, they're going to be left to come up with their own expectations, and you basically at that point hope to God that those expectations are consistent with yours. Oftentimes they are not. So let me give you an example. A specific, measurable, and objective result, let's say for example sales. Let's say you have a salesperson on your staff. It's one thing to say, hey, just go out there and generate sales. That is not objective, it's not specific, and it's not measurable. However, if I said, look, I expect you to close $25,000 a month in new sales with new customers, now I have set the right expectations as to what I expect from that salesperson. If it's a project manager on my team, I set the expectation, hey, I want you to deliver 100% of our clients' projects on time and on budget as specified in the original scope of work. That is an objective, specific, and measurable expectation. The number one reason why employers have underperforming employees is because us as business owners fail to adequately teach the expertise that they need to know to their team. As a leader and as a manager in your business, when it comes to your team, the number one responsibility that you have is to give them the tools, resources, and know-how and the expectations to be able to deliver on what result you are paying them to deliver. If you're vague and if you're all over the place and very broad, they're going to disappoint you 100% of the time. However, if you set specific, measurable, and time-bound expectations and then hold them accountable to that, they're going to meet those expectations or be well on their way to meet those expectations every single time. So, the vital first step in setting the right expectations is setting them in a clear, concise, and measurable manner. If you can't measure it, you're not there yet. Don't set expectations with other people unless you first thought through, okay, I know specifically what I want. I know when I want to buy, but how am I going to measure this? I can't measure do your job, but I can measure deliver your projects on time and on budget. I can measure onboard a new client within 48 hours of receiving the signed contract. See how that's much more clear and concise? And when you explain it, or when you actually set up your expectations, you want to set it in a language that a 10-year-old can understand it in. You don't want to use too much industry words. You want to keep it very simple, very straightforward, so like a 10-year-old can understand it. Okay? Because vague and non-specific expectations does nothing to you and nothing to me besides create frustration and ineffective work performance within a team. And y'all, I cannot tell you how many conversations I've had with prospects or with clients that say, look, if I just had the right team, I'd be fine. What we have actually found is they actually did have the right team. They just weren't given clear and concise expectations. But once they were, I'm not saying that 100% of them worked out, but I would say a significant portion of them worked out because now they knew how the teacher or the boss was grading the test. And now that they knew what the expectations were, now they can deliver upon them. And those that weren't were either let go or repurposed. So let me give you an example of how beautiful this thing can work. So I've had the just pleasure of working with Gene Johnson, who is the CEO of Prism. Prism is basically a rendering company. They work with architecture firms and developers to do renderings for them so that they can present their ideas to their clients. But here is the issue. Although she had a very successful business when I met her, here is the problem. She was working 80 hours a week and she was missing a ton of time. I mean, just an insane amount of time with special events and with her two sons, which were about to go off to college. So she really wanted to spend the time that they were finishing their high school years. She really wanted to spend it with them versus in front of a computer. After 9 months of consulting, by setting the right expectations with her team, her company was able to grow 78%, and Jing never worked more than 45 hours a week because everybody was clear on what the expectations were, how Jing was going to measure those expectations, how to, in what order to reach those expectations, and everybody had a very clear understanding of what was expected of them. And as a result, she was able to free up her time and scale her business. And she has just done a fantastic job, and she continues to grow in an amazing manner even today. So that's step one, which is set the right expectations. So here's how to go about doing it. For each person in your team or each role in your business, establish 3, not 1, not 2, not 5, 3 per position. Multiple studies have found that typically most people cannot deliver more than about 3 results effectively. So for each person on your team or each role in your organization, you want to establish 3 specific, measurable, and time-bound results that you expect from each role in your organization. Then you want to communicate to them and get their buy-in and say, hey, these are the 3 expectations that come. Are these clear and concise? And would you understand whether or not you're actually meeting them or not? And then have a weekly meeting, 15, 20 minutes with your team and go over your 3 expectations, bring the data with you, and then hold them accountable to the results. And one of 2 things are going to happen with each of your team members or each of your roles. Either they met the expectations or they did not. If they met the expectations, hallelujah. If they didn't, find out why and see what you can do to provide them a fertile ground to be successful in. And as long as, here's my rule. You will have a job or a role at my company for as long as you like, provided 2 things. Number 1 is if you actually meet your specific, measurable, and time-bound results expectations on a consistent basis, you can work here as long as you want. So that's criteria number 1. Criteria number 2 is if you're not meeting them, if I see an upward trend towards meeting those expectations, you can stay here for as long as you like. What I will not accept under any circumstance is not meeting the results that I'm paying people for. That is just not going to happen. All right, so that's step number 1. Step number 2 is stop going at it alone. You can't. I saw a resume the other day because one of the things that we do is we actually help our clients find the right people for their business. So I was reviewing one of the resumes, and the outside salesperson on the resume said, solely responsible for helping the company go from 7 million in sales to 300 million in sales. I automatically dismissed that resume because look, to get a business to where you want it to be, to have a growing and thriving business, it requires a team. You cannot do it by yourself. So, the purpose of your staff, in other words, the people that work for you at the lower levels of your company, they are responsible for the day-to-day operations of your business, okay? So all of those worker bees are doing nothing more than making sure that they're taking the day-to-day stress of the business and executing the value proposition of the business for you. The next level higher from that is the management team. The management team's job is to oversee the staff, measure their performance, and find ways to get more out of them in order to increase productivity and profitability. So another way to say it is that the staff cares about the day-to-day, your management team cares about the past. Because the past, they're taking measurements on the effectiveness of the staff, and then they're using those numbers in order to make recommendations on how to make them more productive. Okay? So we've got the staff worried about the day-to-day, the management team worried about yesterday and how to create a better future in the future with their team. Then the owner or your job is to focus on the future of the company. So in a healthy company, you've got the staff worried about the day-to-day. You have the management team worried about the past because they're taking measurements in order to make better decisions about the future. And then the owner or the entrepreneur focuses on the future to make sure that everybody still has a job, including you, the owner. Okay? So those are the 3 levels of a healthy organization. So your job as a CEO is not only to focus on the future and make sure that you have the right systems and team members in place with the right expectations, with the right accountability system, you also serve as the interface between the internal operation team and the external stakeholders. External stakeholders can be investors, it can be shareholders, it can be your spouse, or it can be your customers. Okay? So here's why 90% of businesses fail. You always heard that depressing stat that 90% of businesses fail within the first 5 years. Here's why. Let me take the mystery out of why. Number 1, poor leadership. There's nobody out there that is setting a course for the future. That's number 1. Number 2, there's no differentiation between your value that you provide or your product or your service from anybody else's. In other words, you sound just like everybody else, so no differentiation. Number 3, you're completely out of touch with customer needs. In other words, if you haven't had time to really understand your customer and who your target market is, that is one of the things that leads to failure in business. The fourth is an unprofitable business model. Some companies get paid up front for their product or service. Others get paid in net 30, net 45. If you're a business that gets paid on net 30, net 45 that are paying other people while you're waiting to collect, you've got to make sure that you either manage your cash flow correctly or you have access to credit lines or other credit facilities to help you bridge the gap. And the last thing is poor financial management. There's no accountability around what you're spending on, what your revenue is, what your expenses are, and there's no accountability to determine is what I'm spending money on generating a reasonable result. So those are the 5 reasons why most businesses fail in the first 5 years. Here's the issue, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot be an expert at financial management, marketing, operations, and leadership. Each of those are skill sets that requires a long period of time to get proficient at. You as a business owner need to focus on what only you can focus on. There are things that only you can do. Nobody's going to be more passionate about your business than you. Nobody's going to be more passionate about sales than you. What is your level of expertise? And then what things do you need to delegate to somebody else due to their expertise? Because as a CEO, we only have 3 responsibilities. Number 1 is we are to set the vision of the company. In other words, where do you want to be in 12 months? Where do we want to be in 24 months? What are our competitors doing? How are we positioning ourselves against the competition? What is the pricing structure of us compared to our competition? What do we do better than the competition? What do we do worse? And how can we position our company for success and to continue to take market share in the future? That's the first role of a CEO, is to set the vision of the company. Number 2 is develop your management team so that they can take care of the day-to-day stretch of the business so that you can work on the business instead of working inside of the business. And number 3 is to promote your company. That could either be PR through speaking engagements. It could be with meeting with clients to do more business with them. It could be going on sales calls with the kind of clients or kind of customers you want to work with. As a CEO, if you look at any job description, what CEOs get paid for are only these 3 things: establishing your vision, developing your team, and promoting your company. That's it. Here's a way to determine what things you should be working on and what things not to. And that is by calculating your hourly rate. Most people don't recognize the value of your time. Here's a very little dirty little secret when it comes to scaling your business. The ability for you to scale your business, I'm going to say this slowly, the ability for you to scale your business is directly proportionate to what you, the business owner, spend your time on. The hourly rate of a business is the weighted average of all of the activities that the collective business spends on a yearly basis. So here's how to calculate your hourly rate to determine truly what your time is worth. Number 1, calculate your revenue goal. Let's say, just for the sake of example, it's $1 million. Okay, so $1 million. You divide that million by 2,000 hours. There actually is about 1,980 hours, work hours, but let's just make this simple and just run up to 2,000 hours. So we have $1 million divided by 2,000 hours. So that's $500 an hour. Now you're going to pay taxes on that. So it's not truly fair to say that your total time is worth $500. So if we take $500 times 70%, that's $350 an hour. So your time as a business owner is $350 an hour. Or another way to say it is that the weighted average value of everybody in your business comes out to $350 an hour. This is the value of your time. The businesses that are scaling the fastest, listen to me very closely here. The businesses that are scaling the fastest are those that have leadership teams that are consistently, not constantly, okay? Hear me when I say this. who are consistently delegating tasks that are less than their hourly rate to other people so that they can work on more high value activities. Okay? So you want to delegate tasks that fall below your hourly rate. Now, I understand that we have to take cash flow into consideration. What I would say there is to write down all the different tasks that you do, all of it. Sales, marketing, PR, operations, everything. Just write it all down. And then what you want to do is rate it from the most valuable activity to the least valuable activity. Okay? And by the way, those three things that I walked you through about the three things that a CEO should do, those are all items that are significantly more than $350 an hour. Okay? So, for example, if you do your own payroll, you can find a payroll clerk for $12 to $15 an hour. If you're still managing your schedule, you can find an administrative assistant for 15 to 20 bucks an hour. If you're still doing accounts payable and account receivable, you can find a bookkeeper for 15 to 20 to $25 an hour. So I always recommend that as you delegate your task, you start from the cheapest task and then you work your way to where you're only working on $350 an hour task or higher. Okay? So let me give you an example of how this works. This is Jeffrey Abel. He and I have gotten to be good friends. As a matter of fact, I saw him today. So when I first met Jeffrey, who's the owner of Abel Design Group, it's an architecture firm, he had 21 employees and they were doing about 1.9 million in sales. Which, for an architecture firm from the outside looking in, that looks pretty darn good. However, inside of the business, it was a much different story. They had a significant amount of turnover with their staff, so he was having to constantly replace people, which was burdensome, and he couldn't work on the things that he loved to do, like promoting the business. And he was plagued with unengaged employees. It just kind of seemed like they just were kind of going through the motions. So after we determined what Jeffrey's hourly rate was, and we made a list of all the different tasks that he does, and we allocated how much it cost on an hourly basis to do that particular task, like AR, AP, sales, budgeting, all that stuff. We started delegating from the bottom up all of the things that was taking up so much time that did not allow him to work on the business. As a result, after he went through the program, his business grew to include 45 employees, and he's opening up 2 additional offices. And to boot, he now takes about a month off vacation each and every summer, just by understanding what his hourly rate is worth and by delegating low-value activities. So stop going out alone, okay? It doesn't work. All right. So the first shift was to set the right expectations, or to set tangible, measurable, specific expectations of your team. Number 2 is you can't go it alone. Number 3, stop thinking small. You've got to stop thinking small. As a matter of fact, the Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he. It is so true. Okay? As a matter of fact, Ernst & Young each and every year has a growth forum in Palm Springs. The first thing that they talk about, this is the third thing I'm talking about, they actually talk about this, number 1. Ernst & Young, large accounting consulting firm, noted that the first shift that has to occur for a business owner to grow is to get over their small mindset and start thinking big. So I want to challenge you, every single time that you have a small thought, replace it with a big thought or a thought of abundance. So next time you think, gosh, I'm never going to scale my business, think, no, I can't wait till I scale my business. Next time you hear that I just can't find the right employees, think, no, I'm going to find the right employees. Next time you think, if I could only get to 500,000 or $1 million in sales, no. Think bigger than that, 5 million, 10 million. What really would excite you? Because here's the thing, once you implement these systems and these concepts, sky is the limit. You can grow it to as big of a company as you want it to. That's the power of this stuff. But the first thing that has to shift in the mind is in the mind of a business owner and in the business itself is the mindset of you, the business owner. Nothing is going to change unless your mindset shifts first. So, how do you do that? Well, there's this wonderful law called the law of control. And by the way, this is the law of control, which means this has been tested by the scientific method. And which that means, if they call it a theory, that means they really can't tell whether or not it's something you depend upon or not. It's just a theory. It's a good guess. When they call something a law, like the law of thermodynamics or law of gravity, it happens every single time. Okay? So here's what the law of control says. The law of control says your thoughts control your emotions, which then your emotions control your actions or inactions, and that your actions cause you success or failure. So if I have a small thought about my business, that's going to create an emotion that is consistent with that thought, that is going to determine a particular action and cause either the result I want or don't want. However, if I have thoughts of scaling my business and getting big and really adding massive amount of value to my market, that brings emotions of excitement, of empowerment, of power. And that then controls our actions. We start behaving differently. We start taking different actions to help us get us there, which eventually leads in success. Okay? If you harbor thoughts of negativity or doubt, you're never going to get there because you're being consistent with the law of control. If you don't think you're going to get there, or if you're negative about how you're going to get there, you're never going to get there. You're going to be stuck in your current mindset over and over and over again. So challenge those negative or small thoughts. And one of the things that we've been able to consistently do and help our clients do is change their mindset so that they can get the results that you and that they desire. So are your fears holding you back? What are you afraid of? There's a great quote that I saw the other day. I wish I remember who actually said it. I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt, as a matter of fact, if I remember correctly. You can look it up on Google if you like. But what it said is, on the other side of your fear is your freedom. And that makes so much sense, and I've seen that happen time and time again. Every time I've stepped through my fear versus falling as a victim to my fear, which is a completely different story that we don't have time for, because I've had my experience with that as well. Okay? If I give in to my fear, bad things happen. If I have courage and walk through my fears, oh my gosh, it's awesome. Okay? And here are the main fears that most business owners overcome. Number one is the fear of failure. Well, what if I implement these 5 shifts and I fail? Well, let me ask you a question. What if you implement these 5 shifts and they work? Which I know they do. Number 2 is the fear of criticism. What are my friends going to think if I do this? What is my wife going to think if I do this? What are my employees going to think if I start setting expectations with them? In other words, it's that fear of criticism. Here's the thing, y'all. At the end of the day, nobody really cares about what you think or don't think. Your employees can leave you in a matter of 2 weeks. Okay? So what I would encourage you to do is walk through that fear of criticism and do what you believe is right. Go with your convictions. Most of the most successful people that I meet, it's amazing to me how well they listen to their convictions and to their gut, and oftentimes they're very correct. And last is a fear of rejection. In other words, if I have this grandiose idea, I want to roll this out, what if my employees reject it? Who cares? It's your business. Get to the next level. Have a vision for it. Set up exactly the system and the expectations you want for your business. But those 3 fears, I tell you, y'all, are killers. The fear of failure, the fear of criticism, the fear of rejection will absolutely hold you and your business back. And it literally stifles you or keeps you back or suffocates your ability to reach your goals. So here's a really easy and tangible way to get over that. The fear of failure, the fear of criticism, the fear of rejection. What you want to do is you want to set a goal that is achievable but stretches you. In other words, let's say that you're trying to set a goal, and let's set a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being there's no way on God's green earth I'm going to reach that goal. 10 being, if I were blindfold and my arms tied behind my back, I would have reached that goal. What I would recommend is setting goals on that scale of 1 to 10 that is anywhere between a 5 and a 7. In other words, it brings excitement and joy, and you believe you can get there, but it requires you to stretch yourself. In other words, it's not so comfortable that you know you can do it, but it's not so far reaching, like, for example, to grow your sales 10,000% next year and work no more than 2 hours a week, okay? Sometimes that can seem, gosh, it's overwhelming even to me. But what I'm saying is that if you set a goal that is so lofty, that is so unbelievable, you're not going to believe it. So you're going to be working against the law of control. So set a goal that is, somewhere between a 5 and a 7 that both stretches you and excites you, but you actually say, you know what? It's a stretch, but I truly believe that I can get there. Then do one thing, anything, each day that moves you closer to your goal. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day, and you're not going to scale your business in a day. Do one thing each and every day that moves you closer to that goal. So that's the third shift. Here's the fourth shift, is to create a business development machine that doesn't require you. Here's what I mean by that. Many businesses today are relying on the old school ways or the traditional forms of marketing, such as cold calling, networking, and word of mouth. The issue with two of those three things, cold calling and networking, is that it's very time intensive and there is very little yield. In other words, you have to put in a ton of effort to get a couple of leads. In other words, it requires a low level of efficiency and a high amount of work. The issue that I have with word of mouth, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with word of mouth. Word of mouth means that you're doing something right, so that's a good thing. But here's the issue. Word of mouth is a passive lead generation or business development activity because you're relying on somebody else to say good things about you and then remember that they said good things about you and then remember to contact you. That's a tough road to hold, okay? Very time intensive, very passive. So these practices, cold calling, networking, and word of mouth referrals, are not commensurate to scaling a business because all of these strategies require a lot of your time, a lot of your energy, and brings you very low yield. So if you continue to rely on these passive marketing strategies or these very time-intensive strategies, you're going to experience uneven cash flows because you're going to get clients and lose clients, get clients and lose clients. You're going to have a really, really hard time scaling your business because, again, it's a system, the business development system, that revolves around you. And if it revolves around you, it's not scalable. So we have to get you out of the lead generation and out of the business development process, or at least try to minimize your involvement with it. That's the key. So if you have a proactive outside selling system that generate leads and is able to convert those leads to sales, as well as a productive inside selling system that not only retains your customers, but finds additional cross-sell, upsell, or downsell opportunities to add more value to your clients, then you're going to have a very predictable and steady cash flow that you can rely on. Because it's very difficult to make business decisions as a business owner when you don't know what your cash flows are going to be one month to the other based upon which clients come on board and which clients leave. But if it's a proactive outside selling system to where you can now get measurement on how many leads it generates, what percentage of leads it converts to sales, and the percentage of customers that are now retained because of your client retention system, now you can start making some very, very sound business decisions that's based upon the numbers that your business development system is giving you. Okay? So let's talk about business development and some principles before we continue any further. First and foremost, a business can generate as much leads as their business can handle, provided that three things are consistent. Number one, and this is the first place to start, we have to understand who our target market is. What are their demographics? What are their psychographics? Demographics are things you can query a database for, measurements like revenue range, number of employees, geographic location, industry, title of the person you're looking to meet. So that's the first place to start. The second is the message. In other words, what is the hook? What is the unique selling proposition that is going to incentivize or attract the right market, the people that you want to do business with, to your business instead of all the other ones? And then the media is, which platform or platforms are we going to use to deliver our message to our market? So that's step one. If all three of those things are in alignment, you can generate as much leads for your business as fast as you like on demand, every single time. All right. Now, that's kind of the outside sales process. The inside sales process uses a proactive referral process, which turns customers into clients while adding more value by cross-selling to your existing clients. Normally, the person or persons responsible for this are those that either are your project managers or are people that have customer-facing responsibilities. So if you're a solopreneur, then your inside sales process is making your clients or customers aware of the other services you can provide them or the other products you can provide them that will add more value than they're already getting from you or your business. Okay? As you start to scale, you'll actually have project managers or you'll have customer service reps, which will take care of that for you. However, the proactive referral process is a process in which you ask very timely questions to your clients with the hopes or the goal of getting a referral. And it kind of works like this. Once you deliver value to a client, you simply say, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied are you with the product or service we delivered to you? If they say a 9 or a 10, you have now earned the right to ask for a referral. So at that point, I just say, hey, I'm glad that it worked out so well for you. Do you know of any other business owners that could benefit from the same service I gave you? And you can do the same thing. Now, if they don't give you a 9 or a 10, you have not earned the right to ask for a referral. Instead, you've earned the right to ask for feedback. So if I have a client that tells me that no, it's about a 7 or 8, I said, hey, thank you for the feedback. What do we need to do to make it a 9 or a 10 next time? And then whatever they tell us, whatever feedback they tell us, we implement, create an opportunity to add value to them, and then once we get a 9 or 10, then we create the opportunity to ask them for a referral. For every passive referral you get in your business, in other words, if you cannot remember the last time that you asked for a referral but got one, here's good news for you. For every one passive referral, there are 3 more behind it if you simply had a systematic and proactive way of asking your clients for a referral. Okay? So here's the beautiful thing. If you're adding more value to your existing clients through the inside sales process, in other words, remarketing to your existing clients, this then funds your outside selling process to reach your target market that then turns them into prospects. Because the most expensive activity you can undertake is going out there and finding new customers. Here's my thing. Take care of your home base first. Make sure that you keep your customers. Then find other opportunities to add value to them through upsells, downsells, and cross-sells. That then brings more funds into your business, which you can then use to invest in an outside selling system like pay-per-click or Facebook marketing or LinkedIn marketing. Okay? So the old way is passive referrals, word of mouth, and networking. The new way is a proactive referral process, remarketing to your existing clients, pay-per-click, and LinkedIn marketing. In other words, those are things, maybe the inside sales process initially takes some time for you to do, but once you do that with your core clients and can extract more revenue from them by adding more value to them, that then funds your outside selling process that doesn't require you to execute it. We use Facebook and LinkedIn to market consistently, and it's a wonderful source of leads. And I actually have a company and I actually have an internal person on my team that takes care of that for us. All I've got to do is when a lead is generated and they're ready to talk to me or to talk to one of our staff, we just simply show up to the call. All right. So here's an example of how beautiful this works. So this is Jared Aden. Jared is the CEO of Lens Engineering. Great guy. We've turned to be great friends. When I first met him, though, he had a problem. His business was completely stagnant, and he was having a hard time increasing his sales in his engineering business. All right. So after we developed the inside sales process, and then married it with the outside sales process, his new proposal volume went up by 250%. And this was mostly just by remarketing to his existing clients and asking for referrals, which then easily funded his ability to hire an inside salesperson or an outside salesperson to go out there and generate more sales. It's a thing of beauty. So here's the last shift. The last shift is invest in mentoring. So here's something interesting. Based upon multiple studies, it is likely that 30% of new businesses will not survive past 24 months. And then that number rises to 50% after 5 years. But here's the contrast. Here's don't go do something harmful to yourself. Okay, hold on. All right. However, I always love it when I see the word however after something bad because that tells me that there's something else there that I can rely on to fix. However, 70% of those businesses that started that invest in a mentor are still around 5 years afterwards. And there are a multitude of studies out there that prove this to be correct. The most famous one is the founder of Google. He said one of the most important things that they did is invest in mentoring to help them get from where they are now to where they want to be because that person's already made the mistakes and they can save me years off of getting to what I need to get to. So here's the thing. Test this out for yourself. Let me ask you a question. Are there new ideas right now in your head that would not have been there except for you making the time to be listening to this webinar? Ask yourself, is there anything that you have learned with these 5 shifts that you may have not considered before or thought about in a different manner? A good mentor will also organize a group of people because it takes an army sometimes. It's always better to lock arms with people who want the same things versus going out alone. So a good mentor will also organize a group of people that all want to accomplish similar goals that you can lock arms together, support each other as you reach your goals. So investing in mentoring can take years off of your goal attainment and make the process a lot smoother with a lot less headaches. So as we close, today we discuss a couple of things just to summarize. Number one, we discuss on how to be able to work on the things that you love to do in your business versus the things that you have to do with those 5 shifts that we just covered. We talked about how to turn your business into a predictable cash flow machine that is not dependent on any single person for its success or its failure. We also talked about how to create an asset that you can sell one day by implementing an operation system by setting the right expectations and a business development system that generates leads and converts those leads into sales without you having to be involved in every aspect of it. We also have discussed how to get control over your schedule by having the staff take care of the day-to-day operations, having the management team or having the management process keep track of how effective your team is so that you as a business owner can focus on the future of the business and sell your services or sell your product to your key customers. And also how to have confidence in your team by setting the right expectations and then holding them accountable to those expectations. So to summarize, here are the 5 shifts. Number one, set the right expectations with your team and also with yourself. Number two, stop choking your team's success. Give them the right expectations, tell them the 3 things that you expect of them in a clear, concise manner, and then hold them accountable to it on a weekly basis. Number 3, stop thinking small. Number 4, create a business development machine that has both an inside selling process, which then funds your outside selling process using pay-per-click, LinkedIn, or Facebook. And 5, invest in mentoring to make the path from where you are now to where you're going to be much smoother and much faster. In other words, benefit from other people's mistake. So, speaking of that, you have a choice. Here's how I can help. My team and I have set aside some time the next week to speak with you personally. You can speak directly with me about how to scale your business and free up your time. The cost of the call is absolutely free. Okay? Here's why we're doing this. First and foremost, I really just can't stand seeing business owners like you struggle under the demands that the business requires of you. You don't have to live this way. I promise you don't have to. Many businesses have scaled. I've seen 104 and I continue to see businesses get there each and every day. You do not have to continue under this same struggle. And also, it's consistent with why we're in business. We are in business to deliver freedom to business owners. So that's why we're doing this. So here's what we need you to do. Right below this webinar, you'll see a button. And that button is going to take you to something called an application. That application is simply a questionnaire that asks you, I think, 13 questions about your business. Because by the time that we get on our call, I want to make sure that I'm properly prepared for us to have an effective and meaningful conversation. In other words, I like to know kind of where you're at right now, where you'd like to get to before we jump on the call, so I can make the best use of your time and then of mine. So go ahead and click the button below. Apply for a call with me and let's get you scheduled. And let's say goodbye to this business that you currently have now that is taking up your time, stealing your time away from the things that you love to do, and basically choking your time, choking your energy. And let's really get to the point where you're actually truly scaling your business. So go ahead and click the button now. Or if you want to, you can go to this domain name and sign up now. Spaces are very limited, so please sign up now. And let's take your business to the next level so that you can scale your business and free up your time. Hope you found this helpful. Thank you for listening. I hope we speak to each other soon. Take care and have a great rest of your day.